champions of England.
We've conquered all of Europe. We're never gonna stop. From Palestine to Turkey, we've won the fucking lot. But Paisley and the Shankly, the fields of Anfield gold. We are unsupported, and we come from Liverpool.
Good evening, good morning, whatever the time is, wherever you're watching this right now. This is the Red Sea podcast for the Red Sea Down Under. And I am your host, Nick, for this one here on the right side, as opposed to being on the left side, which is Peter the Coach Kofinas. Underneath him, we've got Aussie Robbo. He's not suspended for this podcast. And we have a fellow Englishman, Steve Wilding, back again. Gentlemen, good evening. Good evening, Peter.
Good evening, Nicholas. How are you?
Very well. Good evening, Jimmy James.
Good evening, Nick. Good evening.
And good evening, Stephen.
Good evening to you too.
Well, we have had two very different matches in the space of a couple of days. I say a couple, it was more like 3 or 4 days. But nonetheless, still, it just goes to show there is no easy match in the Premier League, no matter whether you're playing someone who's near the bottom, someone mid-table, or someone near the top. And we've come away with 4 points out of a potential 6. And it's safe to say that it could have been easier had a few players played, because we know Van Dijk and Fabinho are out because of COVID. So we've had to rejig our defensive lines and our midfield, and Kanate and Matip have partnered in the centre-back over the last couple of games. Midfield was decent against Newcastle. Very, very much changed against Tottenham Hotspur, which we'll get on soon. But initially, gentlemen, I just want to go through one after the other. Pete, first up, two very different matches. How do you sum up the two matches as best as you can?
Lethargic. I think even against Newcastle, we cruised for most of that match, but it still looked lethargic. I think that's the only word that comes to mind first. Even, we started well against Tottenham. We'll get to Tottenham a bit later, I guess. But the Newcastle one, I felt it was just flat. I feel like maybe the players thought that there was going to be an easy win straight away, and they kind of, not to say that we do that because we're not that, Klopp isn't that kind of manager, but it just felt that they were in second gear and they didn't want to get out of it until Shelvey scored. Which nice goal, credit to him. I think we defended that quite poorly, but it was also arguably one of maybe Thiago's worst game, or one of his worst games. It goes to show what a difference it is.
45 anyway.
Yeah,
half it goes to show
average.
What that loss is without Fabinho side, next to you as well. What a big loss he is. So, that's not a Henderson jab, by the way, before we get slaughtered on Twitter. But yeah,
Hey.
well, yeah, you know what I mean. So yeah, that's my opinion on that Newcastle match. A bit just lethargic and a bit dull, to be honest.
James, Newcastle, we come away 3-1, even though we concede in the first 10 minutes. And much like Swansea away many, many years ago now, when we were in that title hunt, Shelvey scores a bomb or scores a goal against us rather, and then gives us an equaliser almost immediately. So after that, it was pretty much game, set, match. I never had any fears that we would lose the game, but were you thinking the worst when we went 1-0 down? Do you think here goes Newcastle, 2 banks of 4, 1 striker up top, goalkeeper, and that is that?
No, not quite. It was a bit of a shock, obviously, them taking the lead, not what we want to see. But I think not just in the Newcastle game, in games since we've come back from the international break, we've shown our quality and what we can do in attacking and putting teams to the sword. So it was just about being consistent with that for us. We obviously managed it coming away with a 3-1 win and coming back from behind to be 2-1 at half-time, which was great to see. But I do agree with what Peter's saying as well. There seemed to be a bit of a wake-up call needed for us to really get into the game, but I think more it shows the absence that's created with the lack of Virgil van Dijk as well as Fabinho as well. A lot, not that Matip or Ibrahima Kanate did a poor job or anything like that, but there is a presence that is felt when you've got a player like Virgil van Dijk in the heart of your defence too. So obviously that's then led into the Tottenham match as well, and there'll be a few things to talk about in that one, but never in doubt that we're going to walk away with 3 points. Just probably made it a little bit harder for ourselves than what we needed to.
Stephen, not much change, but I would say a slight change, But like James said just then, with one player out, we saw last season the impact that had. And with a couple of players out, especially someone as important as Fabinho, it sort of left Thiago sort of like by himself in a way. He had Chamberlain alongside him and Henderson, but it was Henderson played in that game, Newcastle, didn't he? I'm pretty sure he did.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, so it was Chamberlain and Henderson, and it was like he was meant to do that number 6 role. I mean, he might wear the number 6, but he's not a number 6, so he did have a shocking 45 minutes at least. Do you think maybe he's in that mindset that, no, Fabinho does his thing and I do my thing, and he's trying to do his thing from that position?
Yeah, I mean, I'd have preferred if we'd have played Henderson in the 6 in that game and had him just hold. I mean, he wasn't doing his normal role where this season Henderson's been on the right of the 3 and Salah, Trent and Henderson have been linking up. We lost a lot of that in the Newcastle game, but Henderson sort of just seemed to be floating. He didn't really have a set position or a set role. It was a bit of a weird one. So when you lose someone like Fabinho, you see the difference that he makes when he's in there. So he gives that security to a lot of players. So him missing and then pushing Thiago back, it didn't look comfortable. We didn't look like we were fully set in that position. And I'd have preferred Henderson to sit in that number 6 role, which he's done in the past if he was going to stick to it, and have Thiago roam a bit more and give him the backup and then have Ox floating. But lethargic, that Pete said, is the best word for that game. I was watching it, but I wasn't concentrating fully. I couldn't really get into it. It just felt more like a pre-season game with a team trying to get their sort of fitness and pace up.
The crowd was shit too, by the way. There was
all you could hear was the Newcastle fans. It was Newcastle fans all game.
Not for the first time this season, by the way. But it's just I don't know. That game for me was hard. It was actually really hard. But it goes to show the Fabinho and Thiago link, because obviously we've seen what the stats are with them two side by side. So clearly, it's almost like they have, like that friendship necklace. Like they're not complete without each other.
The 2 hearts that link together.
That's just how they are side by side. But it also, the Matip Konate partnership is interesting as well, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've spoken about it in other shows before, how they're too similar, and it leads to errors and schoolboy errors. So yeah.
Yeah, that was going to be my thing. Shout out to Kayed Fagan, says we're talking Newcastle. Yeah, Spurs is coming soon. There's a lot more to be said about Spurs than there is about Newcastle.
Double show, Kayed.
Yeah,
double
so
show.
We're covering both results. The Newcastle
We're double
first.
penetrating you.
Oof. DP. It's a DP show. But yeah, there is something to be said about them, because you're playing both of them together, one game after the other. You would have thought against Newcastle, okay, fair enough, Matip will get the job done. There's no real threat from Newcastle's point of view. But when it comes to Tottenham Hotspur, I don't want to get into Spurs just now, but playing Matip there, you surely would have thought Gomez would have been a shoo-in. You would have thought at least he might have given him, a few minutes and in that Newcastle game.
So yeah, it's an interesting one, Joe Gomez, at the moment, because we've hardly seen him all season, and maybe the hand gets forced a little bit when it comes to Spurs, but it wasn't. Maybe he's wanting to try and keep consistency where he can. And it's funny, we've bandied this thing about rotation, and now rotation's not happening because of keeping players fit. It's because half the team's now getting COVID and has to sit out. Whereas the only thing we can keep consistent now seems to be our defensive backline right now, by keeping Matip and Konate as the 2 in the middle. So it's a bit of an interesting one, but thankfully Konate's obviously now played more than enough games so far this season, and we've spoken only positive things about Konate. There's been 1 or 2 moments where he's maybe shown himself out a little bit, maybe just trying to catch up with the pace of playing in the Premier League. But he's, aside from maybe 1 or 2 moments, he's not done anything to make us question his potential or his current ability. So very thankful that we do have the opportunity to play him right now against Matip, who, as we know, is when he's able to get a couple of games in a row without getting injured, he's also fantastic. I was just thinking, actually, back to sorry to digress a little bit, but going back to the Fabinho and Thiago conversation, what we've seen quite a lot is that sort of that midfield 3 where 2 are playing more defensively. Obviously, Fabinho's the more defensive centre, and then you've got sort of Thiago, who is that sort of in the middle, but does more of a bit of a sort of that defensive transition forward. We didn't have that against Newcastle. And there was this gap that was left in that number 6 position because it wasn't actually filled whatsoever. So it's a pain point, but it's something that we need to make sure that we're working on. And obviously, Henderson sort of not taking the responsibility for that, being a lot more fluid going forward. You just take a look at Henderson's heat map. He's actually our busiest midfielder, probably our most advanced midfielder for that game, but you would expect him to be the number 6. But Thiago's almost playing 2 roles in that. And then again, that puts more pressure on Matip and Kanate. And when they're playing against a striker such as Saint-Maximin, who I think is a fantastic striker. I think it's unfortunate he's at a club like Newcastle where he has to almost carry that front line single-handedly. It's a pain that we obviously lose Fabinho out and create those issues.
Stephen, the midfield thing here, Thiago and Fabinho, the streak is still technically on because we haven't lost when both of them have been playing, and no Thiago in this game, no Fabinho obviously against Spurs, but Newcastle, Thiago was there. He had a bit of a flip-flop in the first half of that first half, and then it sort of got better as the 10 a.m. on the bevies from Lucky Ass Brave on a Monday. It got better as the game went on, but are we maybe now looking at a bit of reliance on Fabinho being there to solidify that midfield? Because we've always said this midfield is going to be the question mark of this team, how far we're going to go. We can score goals, it's not a problem. We can defend goals to a certain extent, but our midfield engine, that's really going to be the key. Is Thiago and Fabinho the key to us making it all the way or pushing City all the way this season?
100%. With those two in there, that is the best midfield we've got. They're the best performances we've had, and we've got that streak going, as you say there. So you take one of them out, you see an impact on it. And as good as Thiago is, and as he's in a world of his own, I think if you take one of them out, if you take Fabinho out, I think you see a bigger impact there. Because no one else can fill that role that Fabinho does in the manner that he does. Other players can come in and try and fill in, but you notice the difference. He's picking up all those loose balls. He's on top of people. He's just doesn't give anybody any time. Thiago is quality at what he does, but other players can come in and we have to play slightly differently. But I think you see a bigger impact when Fabinho is missing. And hopefully, I don't know what the protocol is. Is it 14 days from the test and they can't play, or do they keep having tests until they're negative? Does anyone know?
Fuck, who knows? I think they change it every week, don't they?
Fucking make it up as they go along.
Just quickly, a shout out. We've got an Arsenal fan here, Arsenal Vlogs. Hello, Arsenal Vlogs. How you going? Welcome to the Red Sea Down Under, discussing Liverpool's win against Newcastle. Might be happy that Spurs only got a draw against us because they'd be the contenders for that 4th place spot, which Arsenal at the moment occupy. But I guess at the end of the day, look, we won 3-1. We got to give credit where credit is absolutely due. And Trent, with a belter, had a fantastic game. Got himself a goal. I think also, did he get an assist as well or something? No, he got that tackle. He got that tackle on, I think it was
Ryan Fraser.
Thank you, Fraser. I was going to say Richie for a second. No, it wasn't. It was Fraser going through and got the ball. Then that went to VAR and they checked it and they cleared it and all that stuff. And, last man tackle and, cracking hit from outside the box. And it was just fantastic in that game. And it goes to show when you have good fullbacks, games will be won. But why is Trent, Pete, always involved in the creative aspect of our game? He's either getting an assist or scoring a goal here and there. Like, without Trent, we talk about the importance of the midfield, but without Trent at right back, where does the creativity come from the wings in that case?
I don't normally agree with Gary Neville. But I think he said it today that Trent is a cross between Beckham, De Bruyne, and Gerrard.
Wow.
And to be honest with you, watch him play. It's very he's not far off that. I think we haven't seen a better delivery of the ball since maybe David Beckham. But I think with Trent, what we have in this player is something that doesn't come around very often. We're not going to see this person. It's not like after Trent, a couple, like 1 year later, there's another one, or we're just going to sign one tomorrow in case. No. Trent, for me, is like the one of those players since Gerrard. He's one of them ones. He's that good. He's that important. He's that just different. He's absolutely different. That goal, I think one of the things that I read was in that Newcastle game, because we needed that extra goal, we needed that extra little bit of creativity, we needed something to liven the game up, and I think it was Klopp giving Trent, our right back, creative freedom to roam wherever he wanted to roam on the pitch. Goes to show you just like what this player has in his locker and what they see every single day on the training ground with this player. So to give your right fullback to say, listen, it's not really happening. Can you go and do something for us from right back? And he picks up the ball from the left back position and then does it Steven Gerrard top corner, absolute belter. So I don't think we can't speak any more positive about this player, to be honest with you. I think he's one of those one in a lifetime kind of players for some people.
Yeah, Trent is boss. I mean, Jimmy, when you saw him hit that, did you feel like, why can't Robbo hit anything like that?
It's actually, it was actually really funny because in the last few games I've been sitting thinking, Robbo's due a goal. He's due to absolutely strike one in the top corner. Then Trent does it, and then Robbo scores probably the shittiest goal I've seen in a Liverpool
from a Trent assist,
from a
mind
Trent
you.
assist. Yeah, but again, we'll get to that one at some point. But look, at the end of the day, I heard the exact same thing, and I'm not surprised. Is my simple answer. It's a testament to how good he has been. And not only do you have Trent Alexander-Arnold, who's now got this freedom to freely move back and forth down that right-hand side, cut in when he wants to cut in, fill that sort of gap, just sort of in between the sort of the central attacker and the right winger, just on the edge of the box, because you'll see him do that quite a lot, especially in the last 3 or 4 games. But then he's also partnering Mohamed Salah on that right wing as well. And you think when you've got the two of them just with the freedom to do whatever they want, that's quite possibly, in fact, it is the best right-hand side attack you could ask for in the Premier League, and probably defensively as well. I mean, we see Mohamed Salah probably pull out some defensive crackers out of nowhere. So it's absolutely phenomenal. I can only dream that Andy Robertson could emulate something on the left-hand side, but he's obviously got a few other things in his locker. Whether that's good or not, we can discuss that in a few minutes. But it's fantastic nonetheless to see, even if it is from the right-hand side. Absolutely world class. And there's been some moments as well when he has been attacking. He's been in that position to shoot, and everyone's just expecting a rocket. But he does something just that little bit more intelligent, and he's able to pick out a player in the box and just find them perfectly. And no one else watching the game would expect it. And it's just a delight, absolute delight.
I want to ask you, Stephen, before we get into the Tottenham Hotspur match with the whole referees and the VAR, and that's been the talk of the match. I think both sides can be aggrieved with some decisions in that match there, but Newcastle, was there a foul for Newcastle before we equalised, before Jota got that equaliser on there in that goal?
Their two defenders collided, so it's not a foul. Their complaint is it's a head injury, so the game should be stopped. That
was going to be my next thing. So any head injury, whether it's from their own player or the opposition, should that automatically be a stop? Yeah.
Technically, the game should have been stopped. I was surprised it wasn't. And then my issue with this now is what's happened since then, because Eddie Howe came out after the game and said he was dazed for half an hour after the game, and it's like, well, if he was dazed for half an hour after the game, why did you keep him on the pitch?
Why is he on there? Exactly. You can see he's not right. You say, "Oi, go down. Let's treat you." Like, how dumb.
Like, nah, you carry on playing, and then we'll moan about it at the end. And then the other thing is, if he's dazed after the game, that's implications of concussion, which by the rules, he's not allowed to play for like 10 days, I think it is, or something stupid like that. But he played this morning against Man City, so he clearly wasn't that shaken up. So Eddie Howe's either full of shit or they're not abiding by the rules.
Yeah, looking for an excuse. Like he says,
the medical team has no idea what they're doing.
That too.
Could be.
Yeah. I think coming on to talking about that the foul or the injury or whatever you want to dress it as, the first thing that I was ever taught playing football, and I'm sure, Peter, you've probably said this to every age group that you've trained, but you play to the whistle. It's as simple as that. One of your players is down injured. I totally get the frustration behind that. But until the referee blows his whistle or that ball's out of play, you keep going. You don't stop. And, half the Newcastle team stopped trying to get the referee's attention. Then the ball went out wide, and then they were trying to catch up with themselves. One of the other players was on the ground, noticed what was going on, the game was still going, and then got up. By the time he got up, he couldn't get in position to man mark Jota, who I think is currently one of the best players in the Premier League to head a ball as a striker. He's 5'7", and he manages to beat everyone to a header almost every single time a ball comes into the box. Absolutely phenomenal. Keeper makes a great save, but can't do anything about the follow-up because, again, the Newcastle defence hasn't been paying attention. He's been trying to get the referee's attention. So the simple thing is, doesn't matter whether you're playing Sunday League, doesn't matter whether you're in the backyard with the kids, doesn't matter if you're getting paid $100,000 a week, you play to the whistle. Simple as that.
Yeah, and also mention, Mike Dean was the referee for this match here, and when Mike Dean's like, nah, just get away, it's not happening, get away, whatever. He's in one of those moods. And when Mane was through on goal, there was a moment where no, I think it was Salah who got that equaliser, wasn't it? Or was it I forget who gives a shit. We scored. Yeah,
Salah
okay, he got number 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. So when Mane goes on and he's clipped from behind and he still goes on, the referee could have easily called for a pen there, but he decided to play it on. It's just interesting how the referees interpret different things. Whereas sometimes you would have thought like, well, hang on a second, let's bring it back here because there was an advantage. And I'm just going to bring this up. Obviously, our overseas listeners probably won't know. Pete might know. You fellas, if you watch the A-League, there was
Jets on the weekend.
Yeah. There was a goalkeeper.
I was there.
Oh, yeah, there you go. So goalkeeper tackled the opposition attacker, and the ball happened to literally pass in the way of a teammate and slotted it into the net, but the referee blew the whistle between the ball going from the foul to that, and he sent the keeper off and gave him a free kick instead of playing advantage. So different referees interpret things differently. Do you think if it was another referee, that foul on Mane gets called as a pen? There's no advantage there. Salah, doesn't get to... Well, if he hits it in the back of the net, it gets called a pen.
If it's Paul Tierney, it's a free kick to Newcastle, I think.
Which is the perfect segue.
Fantastic. Yeah. Jota is lethal except in front of an open goal. Got to bring up that Wolves moment. Yes, Peter Kofinas, my dear friend.
Oh, well, speaking of shit referee decisions, let's talk about Spurs.
Paul Tierney and VAR. What the actual F? That I was asleep. I happened to wake up from notification when we got the second goal when Robbo put us up in front, and I thought, let me just watch for like 5 minutes, and then straight after that you saw they attack, and Alisson had to come out and attack the ball outside the box and clear it, and then they end up scoring a goal from Alisson committing and missing the ball and Son going through and whatever. But just that goal itself, the implication of a Salah handball, which you can argue it's gone head, shoulder, arm type of thing, but VAR said no, it's clear. Patini's like, okay, well, VAR says it's clear, so whatever. And the incident with obviously Harry Kane, the first one there in the 20th minute when he's gone in on Robbo. And for those playing at home, I will just quickly share this to screen here so we can see exactly what we're looking at the moment. So these are the gifts. So there's Robbo's one, as you can see right there. So fair enough, but if Robbo does not lift his leg, like Jimmy said in our group chat, he becomes Lieutenant Dan from Forrest Gump. His leg is absolutely gone. Like that's a rash tackle. Exactly.
That's Cisse 2.0.
That's a rash tackle in itself. But this, if he does not lift his leg up, his leg is snapped. And for the referees to not even want to look at it themselves, that to me says, well, I'll just rely on the VAR and let VAR sort it out for me. Pete, what is it about referees? Because you're next to referees non-stop, you overhear them talking and things like that. What is it about referees that nowadays, with technology, does not want to make them make a decision effectively?
It's accountability. I don't think they want to be accountable for the actions. I think a lot of that's what it comes down to. I think it's funny because Klopp last week came out and started talking about, vaccines and all the other stuff about I'm not signing, vaccinated players, or it was, and all of a sudden we get hit with the COVID cases at the club. It's almost like stop talking about that stuff because it's come back. And then there was obviously he's mentioned referees in the past, or quite a bit to be honest, and then it comes back to haunt us. I feel like Klopp should just stop talking about stuff that can potentially affect us. Because in terms of this Paul Tierney today, it was almost like he had money on the match. I've never seen, or I have seen it with us especially, his overall performance, like giving Klopp the yellow card to make a big deal about giving Klopp a yellow card. When Klopp, to be fair, I don't think he was in the wrong. I think he had every right to ask the questions.
Yeah.
And I feel like there was continuous moments. Like Naby Keita getting yellow card for getting elbowed in the head. What? Do you remember that part or not? It was.
I've forgotten about. He was constantly just booking people for no reason,
Yeah.
and then when there should have been red cards, he was like, "It's all right."
I just don't
Prick.
get the whole fucking thing. Like, okay, Andy Robertson's. If I had to show you the video of both, and I said to you right now, pick which one was the red card. Which one are you giving the red card?
Oh,
Kane.
Kane every day.
Yeah.
To be fair, they're both red cards, but
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
look,
100%.
Well, let's face it, it was a bit too much from Robbo, but that's because he was frustrated because literally just before that, there was some stuff that went against him. Yeah, But I don't know, man. Like I said, I'll look at that and I think to myself, Jesus Christ, if he's had his foot on the floor, his leg was in half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people have said that's what saves him. Jimmy said it in our chat, but Steve, I mean, okay, we can argue Robertson's a red. Even Klopp said post-match, he goes, look, Robertson, okay, if that's a red, then Kane's is a red as well. Like, why does one get sent to VAR and one doesn't? Why does the referee get told to look at one? Oh, he's making up for the other one. Fuck that noise. I don't want to hear making up for the other one. The referee should be looking at something, whether it's the first minute of the game or the last minute of the game. When you see someone like Harry Kane who constantly jumps up and elbows people in the head and headbutts them and climbs on top of them and he gets nothing for it, one could be mistaken for thinking he gets favoritism because he's the England captain. And yes, I am going to say that because that is something that a lot of people online have been
100%
saying.
it is. What do you mean?
100%, yeah. I mean, just, VAR to English players, oh, come here, dear gorgeous. And VAR to non-English players, you fucking donkey. Like, what, like, especially Harry Kane. And look, if it was Henderson as well, I would expect Henderson to be sent for that tackle. Like, we've seen him get sent for Man City in that,
Paul Pogba got
season.
sent off against us for a similar challenge, by the way.
There's no difference.
Yeah.
I said that to a friend at work today. I was like, "There's no difference between that Paul Pogba one and the Harry Kane," and no one complained when Pogba was sent off. So what's the problem with the Kane one?
Yeah.
He's just he's a prick, and that decision was just bullshit.
I swear on my mum's life I touched it. I swear on my mum's life I touched it.
He
That's
actually,
Harry Kane for you.
has said that he reckons he touched it. The only part of him that touches it is his hand touches it after it comes through.
Like,
There's nothing on it.
he actually said post-match, I believe I touched the ball. Like,
Yeah.
I got the ball. It's like,
With your
bro,
fucking hand, you mong.
oh my, bro, like, you got nothing of the ball. The super slow motion replay, you didn't even get a shoelace on it. This guy reckons he got the ball. Like, bro, what planet are you living on? At least Robertson's, you can say, yeah, he's absolutely just, gone in and just sideswiped him. Cool, no worries. Off you go, mate. See you later.
Yeah, but Robbo got more of the ball in his red to get away. But
Robbo didn't leave his feet either. Robbo stayed on his feet.
Yeah, but Kane came out after matches. I actually thought it was a really good tackle, to be honest. On what pitch would that be a good tackle? If you did that in the league that I play in Sunday League, you're getting sent to the hospital for making that tackle because everyone's just going to jump on you. Like, you just can't get away with that. But obviously, if you're the England captain, then you're untouchable, everything like that. But that's just one issue with Paul Tierney and his team today. Like, VAR, we've spoken about VAR for years. In the last 12 to 18 months, VAR has probably has not been a big topic of conversation for football fans in the Premier League as what it was when it was first introduced. But it seems that this week, because it's not just our game that's had issues with VAR, there was issues in the Newcastle United Manchester City game. But the other one
That was a penalty, by the way.
Yeah,
You're talking about
it's a clear penalty.
my days.
and you know what else was a clear penalty was the one on Diogo Jota. Like,
Hands down.
But
it's
did you hear-
because he
did you
stopped.
hear
stopped.
Yeah,
Looking for the foul. No,
Fuck
he's
off, man.
actually slowed down to take a shot on goal, and he's been absolutely barged through the back. I can't work this out. I can't. I mean, someone said it in the chat already, and it's been said countless times online. But the referees they get away with it because nobody holds them accountable. If I performed like that at my job, I would be down at Centrelink. I'd be at Job Centre claiming the dole because I would get sacked if that was the way I was performing at work. But no one holds them accountable. They don't have to answer to anybody. And then they just move on to the next week, and then we worry about the next thing. It's an absolute wind-up.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like people want to talk about Robertson last week, the tackle on Tanganga, where he's gone in there with his with his stud. Fair enough. Like that probably should have been a red card as well, definitely. But he wasn't sent off last game, so we're making up for it this game here. Like no two games are the same, no incidences are the same. And just to contrast this, or just to give you another point here, Carragher's famous absolute Roy Keane chop on Nani in that 3-1 win where Luis Suarez was absolutely dazzling against Manchester United. Like that's got to be one of the most clearest red cards in the history of football, and he just got a talking down to, and Nani had a full scratch mark and had like chunks out of his shin taken out of it. You know what I mean? Things like that happen, but there's no video referee back then. Now there's video referee. So again, why is the video referee not saying, hey, he's actually gone studs up, maybe it is a yellow card, but do you want to look at it again? And enough of this slow motion shit. Everything looks worse in slow motion. Look at it in real time from multiple angles. That way you can probably get yourself a bit of a gauge as to the actual seriousness of the tackle, or if it's a nothing burger. Like, you can argue that, he's jumped up in the air, so he's not as bad, so I'll give him a yellow card. At least look at the damn thing. Then we can still castrate you for saying, like, you've made the wrong decision. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but hang on. He went and checked Robbo's tackle again in slow motion on the camera on his own.
But that's what I'm saying.
And still deemed that to be a red card. So why didn't he go look at the Harry Kane one?
But that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Look at him, and look at him in real time. Like in slow motion, everything looks bad. Look at it in slow motion once, maybe. Then look at it in real time and see if it's worthy of a red card or whatever you're checking. I don't know.
You go and check the screen though under the instruction of the pricks in VAR. So they've obviously looked at the Harry Kane one and said, "That's fine. The yellow card you've given is."
That's what I'm saying.
Decision. And then they look at the Robbo one and go, "You've given a yellow. I suggest you go and check the screen because this is a potential red." So the people in VAR have fucked up on that Harry Kane one.
It's an absolute joke. And then at half-time, Dermot Gallagher, the former Premier League referee, is justifying why it wasn't a yellow card. It wasn't a red card, and it was a yellow instead. And Michael Owen's a brainless dickhead sometimes, but for him to sit there and say, actually, you're wrong, and for Shay Given,
Given was adamant, wasn't he?
Yeah, Shay Given was just like, you're wrong. It's a red card every day of the week. Because it is a red card every day of the week. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Again, it's the whole thing of why do we have to interview Jurgen Klopp, for example, drill him with questions after the match, put him into a position where he kind of under fire, and maybe he can get himself into trouble with a few words that he says every now and then. But why can't we get a referee in front of a camera and with a microphone and say, "Hey, you're a moron. What do you think about that?"
Because every week it'd be amazing.
They need to answer the questions. He needs to go. So, Paul, other than being an absolute spastic, please tell us about your decision. Like, how do you? They need to understand it. It's simple as that. We need to get the referees, and not Dermot Gallagher reading a script on how to protect the referee association. We actually need to hear it from themselves. Why wasn't that a red card?
Yeah, and for those watching this now live or in future, like, don't think we're excusing the referee's performance for the draw here. Arguably, Tottenham had the better chances. To be fair, we had chances as well to score goals, and throughout the game, Alisson kept us in it, and then ultimately cost us, 3 points in this match. Perhaps maybe the Robertson sending off also played a part, but we're not here to say, well, the referees are the reason why we drew this game. It's just the consistency of it all, like the most minimal of offsides. Like, okay, we talk about Everton against Arsenal. Richarlison could have had himself a hat trick, all but for a centimetre of a toe. Like those stupid things, like just because he's a centimetre off does not mean he'd potentially reach a ball. Or if he's a centimetre off, like that's literally like we're going like millimetres. Goal line technology, I can understand that. As frustrating as it is, we've been on the back end of that. I can understand goal line technology, but for offsides, there is no more, advantage to the attacking team if it's like, half a knee or whatever. It's like it's offside. Same with these cards here. And you'll probably see someone get sent off in the next round, and it's probably going to be worthy of a yellow card because you're going to think, oh, well, we actually didn't send off players when we should have, so I'm just going to give them a red card for the sake of it now, which is what I don't want. I don't want to see that crap.
You know what else as well, though? Like a different story if they got the Kane and Robbo thing wrong and, okay, we move on because everything else was quality. It wasn't even that. Like, go back to the Jota penalty. How do you not give the Jota, like, how is that not a penalty? Why would he want to invite contact to go down when he's at the edge of the 6-yard box with a clear finish from what the whole far post was wide open?
He's just
would
about
you
to pull the
decide to go
trigger as
down?
well, isn't he? It's just shit.
It's unbelievable, man. Absolutely unbelievable. But going back to the match's actual self, Nick, and you said it there, I would have definitely taken a draw out of this one. You know, obviously a 3-day turnaround. If you said, you know, you leave with 4 points, would you take that? I probably would have said, you know, yes. Obviously, it's, you know, I want to win every match, but you've got to be realistic at the same time. And a draw against a good side, which Tottenham are a good side with a very good manager. So it's not the worst result. I think it's how the result happened is what's aggravating. It's very similar to Liverpool. You know, we always, you know, we expect to win every match because it's just how we are now under Klopp, but you've got to be honest as well. The only thing that's really bugging me at the moment is conceding 3 goals in the 2 games against Spurs and Newcastle. I think defensively, going back earlier, I think with that Matip and Konate are way too similar. And I feel like there's that Matip mistake is in Konate and the Konate mistake is in Matip. And when you put them together, there's almost like guaranteed that that's going to happen kind of thing. So, I mean, you look at was it the first goal where Robbo, I think, was keeping him onside, even though he was, yeah. But Robbo's actually been guilty of doing that for a long time.
Yeah.
We've seen it in 100, you know, there were 3 or 4 matches this year alone where he's kind of done that, kept them onside. But the guy who scored, assist, red card, kept them onside for theirs. Talk about being involved, huh? Like he was heavily involved. But I think we let ourselves down a little bit defensively today.
Stephen, we start with the midfield that we probably did not expect to start with. Mismatched, some would say. And like realistically, on face value, you look at that midfield and think, okay, how the hell is this going to work against a team like Tottenham? Even though they haven't played in like 2 weeks, still, like it is Tottenham, and they can be dangerous. And like I said, if it wasn't for Alisson and poor finishing from them as well, so bad. I mean, Dele Alli's miss, Kane had a couple of siders as well, Son. It could have been much worse, but I mean, Milner, Morton, and Keita starting in that midfield. I don't know. Yeah, Steve, give me your take on that, mate.
I'm going to be honest with you. I was sort of praying all weekend that this game was going to be called off because
me too.
You could see the players that missed Newcastle, and I thought we're going to have more players missing. There were rumours on Twitter beforehand that Salah was one of them. And I went to bed because obviously this was 2:30 kickoff for me, 3:30 for you guys, and I sort of watched my phone at about 11 o'clock, and I thought at night, and I thought, the game's still on. I'll set my alarm to get up, and I thought, because normally I just get up, go straight down TV on, but I thought I'm checking my phone as soon as I wake up to see if the game's still on. And then I check the team, and I'm like, holy shit, what is that midfield? Because you got James Milner, who only just returned from injury against Newcastle. You've got Naby Keita, who only just returned from injury against Newcastle. And then Tyler Morton, who's only just come into the team in the last few weeks, who's 19, and I think he had a decent game, but obviously he got taken off because he got the yellow card to protect him. But I saw that lineup and I thought, this is going to be tough. Spurs are going to be fresh. There's going to be a big gaping hole in that midfield. And on the balance of it, the draws probably, I'd take that. But I was not confident at all when I saw that midfield. And that's one thing I don't get. I mean, I don't know if any of you can shed any light on it. There is no rule on when they're calling games off related to COVID. Absences, is there? There's Chelsea had 6-7 players out through COVID and actually asked for the game to be postponed, and the league ordered them to carry on and play. Mm-hmm. We only had 4 because Klopp said Henderson's the only one who had symptoms, which means the other guys with no symptoms have just done a test positive. Henderson just had a cold, so we had 4 missing plus Henderson. And then there's rumours that some of the games called off midweek and this weekend, where there were squads that had like 2 players or 3 players with COVID. I think the United game midweek, they only had 2 or 3 players with COVID, but they called the game off. Yeah. So where's the continuity in that? Where's the fairness in that? And look, I'm not moaning saying we shouldn't have had to play, but I wish we didn't, because that's a tough game to go and play. But with the right midfield in there, we'd go and win that game.
Yeah.
There's no shadow of a doubt with that. You put Van Dijk in that defence, we win that game.
Yeah, like Jimmy, like Kayed says here, if we had a full strength squad, we've gotten 3 points. I mean, do you
Easily.
think I believe that to be the case? Van Dijk there alongside either Matip or Kanate. Doesn't matter who it is. You have Fabinho, you have Thiago and a Henderson, or even a Chamberlain, whoever you're going to put in the midfield, and Jota up front. Firmino still coming back from injury, trying to get some match fitness, and I had a bit of a cameo against Newcastle, and also it came on late in this game here as well, or at some point in the match. So it's not as if to say we didn't have like players back yet, because at the moment, realistically, all we have out is Harvey Elliott still with his recovery, Fabinho, Van Dijk with the COVID. Thiago, I don't know what his story is if he's out as well, and Origi who is still with the knock or something like that. So I think a full strength team and this game like is maybe not comfortably, but confident enough to say we win this game one way or another.
Definitely, we walk away with 3 points. Otherwise, it's just obviously, as said before, the hand is forced. Unfortunately, in this instance, I think probably the saving grace for our midfield in some aspect is the fact that Tyler Morton, this isn't just him, we just need to chuck him in because we've got no choice. He has sort of built himself up. He's played a couple of Champions League minutes, a Champions League game now. He's played his Premier League minutes coming on as well. He's had a bit of a run in the Cup. So it's good that he's had that time to sort of get used to what's around him. But the hand is incredibly forced. I mean, we was it. That's now 7 games in the league since we've come back from the international break, and we've won 6 out of those 7 games, so 22 points out of 24. If you had said that to us at that time, all of us would have taken that. No matter where the points were dropped, we would have taken 22 out of 24. There's no question about it. It's just an absolute nightmare that Man City, I think, have now gone to 7 for 7, and they're just in this blistering form at the moment. That's the issue that we're facing right now. It's the whole COVID thing and how that's working. It seems very just for an elite league that's run the way it is, and it's obviously got a worldwide audience, to be run so ad hoc just seems very unusual in this instance. But it is what it is. We have to work with it. So with that squad that we had today, to walk away with just the 1 point, I think that's just something that we just have to take on the chin, as frustrating as it is. And we just look forward to the next one. I think was it Leeds United we've got next. So
Leeds play next.
Yeah.
Peter, we played with the high line in this match here, and that's what a lot of people have said, like the high line is what sort of did us over, because when you have Van Dijk there, you've got that recovery pace, whether it's Matip moving forward, at least you've got someone there alongside him. Kanate and Matip, if they're too similar, then they might have some, the same sort of problems. Was that high line the detriment to our undoing? That's why Alisson got caught out a couple of times. That's why we conceded those 2 goals.
Alisson has these moments in his best of days. Like he was unbelievable. He made 3 or 4 match-winning saves, and you kind of go, the guy's unbeatable. And then he came out. The one time actually didn't have to come out. He came out and missed the ball completely. So I'm not going to blame Alisson, to be honest with you. It's hard to put anything on Alisson. Alisson's always been rock solid for us. It's just sometimes it's annoying when he has these little moments. But the high line for me was questionable after maybe the 6th through ball that went through from Harry Winks. So after Harry Winks has played it through in behind, after that so many times, I thought maybe it's time to not do that, because our midfield isn't our midfield, which means they're not used to the pressing standards and being able to cover the spaces that we do leave. Because Tyler Morton, you can't. I don't want to hear any slag against him. You don't expect anything other than what he gave us. Naby Keita, I'm surprised the gust of wind didn't hurt him, and he's out for a couple of weeks. But again, coming back from injury, James Milner, we don't expect to have him, for 90 minutes pressing a midfield that could, sometimes during the match was a midfield of 5 in a 3-5-2. So the high line for me was questionable, when especially our fullbacks are the ones who provide the width as well. So yeah, I look at that throughout the match and I go, maybe we should have adjusted a little bit, but obviously we didn't. And then that, as you said, that would just pretty much cost us the 2nd goal.
Alisson, like as good as he is, yeah, he does have those moments in there. And like he says, not that one there, moving real quickly. What was it? Blah, 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 blah. Here we go. Alisson was playing goalkeeper and centre back. He's playing sweeper keeper, and he didn't sweep as much as he kept. So he can only do so much. But it has to be said, he did save us a few times. He did save that what's normally what we call I don't want to say it, but I'm going to say it in the context of a Jew goal where you got 2-on-1, like two attackers with the goalkeeper, and you square it and you tap it in. You know what I mean? That's what we call in FIFA terms, a Jew goal. So whatever, that's just the context of it. That is a nailed on goal, and somehow he makes his way across to smother the ball before it gets to Harry Kane, or Harry Kane gets a shot off and he saves it. But to the same point, Hugo Lloris had a few saves to make in those first 15, 20 minutes as well. He had that Robert had that chance, someone mentioned it earlier on, that went wide. We also had a couple of shots at goal. And Trent with that volley near post, Lloris gets his leg out there. So there were chances for both teams in this game. Yeah, there were chances for both teams in this game. And it was just one of those ones where it was like, who's going to take their chances? And well, Tottenham certainly didn't take theirs, because if they took their chances, they would have been 4-5 up in that first half. We could have been a couple of goals up ourselves. So you can see Tottenham are still trying to work out what they're doing when it comes to their play. But for us, I think it was just a case of players coming in trying to fit a style of play that we're used to playing with 2 or 3 key players. When they're not there, it's a little bit harder. It's a little bit difficult to maintain. So maybe there is no second. Maybe there is no second plan. There is no plan B, as everyone likes to point out there. And like Thiago's father, Papi, says, Morden's not ready. It's amazing fairy tale, but should not have played while the likes of Ox sat on the bench. Yeah, you probably would have thought Chamberlain would have started this game, surely. I mean, lucky as well. Mistakes been coming. It's a couple of shaky moments. Yeah, that did not surprise me that we conceded like that, because, again, Kane had that chance shortly after we scored. They did it again, and they end up scoring a goal, and Son scores it, and then Robert gets sent off, and the rest is history.
If I may, Nick, there's a comment from Raul here. I think he answered his own question within the question, kind of thing, his statement, because it's like, because the whole line wasn't the issue, no, but the lack of pressure from midfield, which we mentioned, and tracking the runners, so isn't this exactly the reason why we shouldn't play whole line, though, when the midfield isn't kind of the midfield that we used to doing the business in that kind of area? I think we kind of have to adjust and not be so stubborn. We kind of have to kind of, adapt to the situation, maybe play our way into that. And as the game progresses, so does the line, potentially. I'm not too sure, but I think that's something I would have changed anyway. But yeah.
Interesting point here as well. Morton's a talent, but should he have played over Ox? I mean, you're playing against Spurs. I mean, Klopp's probably thinking, look, they haven't played in 2 weeks. They're probably going a little bit slow, a little bit lethargic, maybe not going to be on it. But they were on it, man. And a full packed stadium as well. And the crowd were just on Liverpool the whole time with the whole tackle and Robertson and Klopp as well. It's been a while since we've seen Klopp blow up at a referee like that. Not since his early Liverpool days, and more so before that at Dortmund, Jimmy. We've said it earlier on, like Klopp was justified in that. But, I mean, do we want to see more managers questioning refereeing decisions like this?
Well, if they don't question them, they'll just continue on. That's the issue. If it keeps getting spoken about, then something might actually happen in the background. Whether we hear about it, whether they say anything, or if they ever admit it, that's another conversation, whether that might happen. But if managers don't talk about it, if the pundits don't talk about it, then the referees get away with blue murder. Just going back to Thiago Faber's point there about Tyler Morton and Ox-Chamberlain, I actually was quite surprised that Keita started over Oxlade-Chamberlain, if I'm being honest. I think Oxlade-Chamberlain should have started. Whether there's maybe just he needs a bit of a rest, because he's probably played the most football that he's done in the last 3-4 years, because of injuries, everything else that's been going on. I mean, based on the limited options that we have, maybe Morton is the only option that we have for that. I guess that number 6 role. In there, and then you've got Jimmy Milner alongside them, who provides that experience and can sort of guide that. But the problem is, you tie that in with this high line that we're playing. You're playing against a now fully fit Spurs team. It's a gamble. It's as simple as that. I mean, your other option would be to play Oxlade-Chamberlain, Jimmy Milner in the 6, and then Naby Keita on the right hand side. I think that's an even bigger recipe for disaster, to be honest. Doing that, Jimmy Milner, a fantastic football player, bags of experience, a potential for the future, because he seems to continue playing on and never stops. But I don't think putting him in that number 6 position, it would have been a higher scoreline in favour of Spurs, albeit for some of the heroics that Alisson pulled off, apart from that Son chance.
I'd rather see someone like Kanate or bloody Matip at number 6 than bloody James Milner.
Jesus. It's then the opposite of the issue we had last season.
Be amazing.
Trying to patch up the midfield with defence.
And by the way, no one's mentioned it, Matip's mazy run where he actually got into the box and he had a shooting opportunity and he tried to like play in Jota or Salah. It was just like, just fucking shoot.
He's done the hard yards and he
every
just
week, mate.
gives it away. Yeah, that's nothing for him.
This time he got so much further than he normally does. I was like, he's gonna open up his body and just curl it in the far post.
I think this is his interesting comment here. By the way, I just read this then because did I say it to you off air, Steve? Correct me if I'm wrong for people in the UK because we didn't have this issue because we're lucky we get to watch every game no matter what, so sucked in. But the matches that were televised this week were they not the Liverpool and Chelsea games over there? Because I read somewhere that it's funny that the only 2 games that didn't get cancelled were the ones that they were televising. So I don't know. You guys maybe can correct if that's true or not, but that would be interesting because not about being a conspiracy theorist and all that kind of stuff, but that would be very interesting if they were the ones that were televised. And look at that, they're the ones that were played. So that's pretty. I'm interested to see if that's true or not.
Yeah, it's a good point. A very good point there. I don't know. Well, this is the whole thing. Should football be entertaining? Like, obviously, we go to games to be entertained, but ultimately, it's a points and results based business, to use that term. So I don't know if it was used as a way to make it more exciting. Then Paul Tierney is a very, very brave person. Paul Tierney is a brave man to put his hand up and say, "I'll be the prick in the middle of the field who's going to fuck the game up for everyone."
So there we go. By the way, Liverpool was the televised game.
I think the sorry to burst the bubble a little bit, but I think the Man United Brighton game was meant to be the Saturday lunchtime on BT Sport.
Piss off with your negativity.
This is the top red time now, man.
Oh, what is it? Here comes the top red. He's back. He's back.
Yeah, but no one wants to watch Manchester United versus Brighton, but people want to watch Liverpool versus Spurs.
Yeah, exactly. They want to watch. What they want to watch is they want to watch the teams who are challenging for the title, not the teams that are challenging for the Europa Conference League.
Yeah, because that's what everyone wants to see. Everyone wants to see that happening.
There would have only been 2 broadcast games yesterday anyway, wouldn't there? And there was 3 games played because there was the Man City, Liverpool, and Chelsea games. So, yeah.
I don't know. It is good to speculate and to make certain theories and things like that out of what's happened. But look, at the end of the day, look, is it a fair result in hindsight? 2-2. Look, we could have gone down. They could have gone down any which way. It was an entertaining game for the neutral. I think if you're obviously a Chelsea fan, that works in your favour. If you're a City fan, of course, because City ended up winning 4-0 against Newcastle, and they're at the moment the top of the pack there, as we probably, I don't know, we expected. But Pete definitely expected at the start of the season, 2-3 games in. We all agreed City can go on a run of X amount of undefeated games, and in their last 6 they've won every single one of them, whereas we've won 5 and drawn 1. And Chelsea seem to be stumbling at the moment, so they're only 3 points ahead. But then again, Chelsea only 3 points behind, and Arsenal are chasing Chelsea 6 points behind them. So it is getting a little bit interesting at the top of the league. A lot of people are saying it's a City-Liverpool title race, but you know what I mean? Chelsea, once they get players back as well, you never know. They might, make their way through after January, February. City might have a slip somewhere if there's some sort of miracle around the world. I don't know. I think 2-2, we can't really complain too much at the end of the day based on how that game went, I would think.
No, spot on. You've got to look at it the way the game played out. It's frustrating that we drew it in the way we did, but a draw is a fair result, and with the squad we had, I know the defence other than Van Dijk was strong, the forward line was strong, that midfield in the middle never played before, never have they probably trained for great lengths before, because 2 of them had just come back from injury and everything, and Tyler Morton's only just been pushed up to the first team. So I'd take the draw, as frustrating as it was that it ended, and it's pissed me off all day, to be honest. You've got to look at it with a sort of sensible head and say, no, that's fair. Take that. And then My concerns, like they've got this meeting today, haven't they? The Premier League about how to move forward with COVID. What is there going to be a break? Are we going to carry on? So, if we carry on, what sort of squad are we going to have left for the Leeds game?
That's a good point. I don't think any players were injured at the end of this game, so we should be okay. But yeah, those players that are isolating, we're without them. So I think as it stands, so it's Thiago, it's Van Dijk, it's Fabinho, and that's basically two or three of our midfield. Curtis Jones as well. Yeah. Henderson potentially
Henderson's
as well.
Got a cold, so you'd hope he'd be back.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm saying, like that sort of thing there. Oh, there. Yeah, it is going to be one of those interesting matches because, look, we won 3-0 away at Ellen Road. That was one thing, but, you know, they're coming to us. But we do have the EFL Cup match, if that's still going on against Leicester, which I don't know if that is at the moment.
Correct, yeah.
So that's first up. You think that's a much changed squad there, and then squad sounded like we had us for a second.
But how much can we change that? We're missing half our midfield now.
That's what I'm saying.
Hey, just by the way, I just realised something during the game. Sorry, this is so random, but I bet you now, Klopp puts a moustache on like Robertson and puts his name in like Tsimikas and makes him play. I reckon he'll still find a way to play Rob over Tsimikas. You watch. He'll still find a way. It doesn't matter. He'll just put on that Tsimikas jersey. He'll put like some bags underneath his eyes. He'll paint them or something. Make him walk out with a Greek coffee in his hand. He's going to say, "Yeah, that's still him." What are you on about? I swear that's him.
That boy looks like Robertson. No. Watch this. Smash a few plates. Sorry,
Sorry. Opa,
I was generalising. I didn't mean that.
Yeah, I swear to God, it's Tsimikas. I swear. Watch this.
Yeah, Greek lingo. Yeah, no worries. Easy done. Well, yeah, we are going to be playing Leicester first up, but then it is Leeds at home at Anfield on Boxing Day, December 26th. Should everything go ahead as planned, Leeds are in a bit of a slump themselves. It's not really a preview, but we've got 4 minutes to spare. Bielsa's all out of ideas. They're absolutely all over the shop at the moment. They're coming to Anfield, where we should have at least some players back. You would imagine 1 or 2, hopefully. But someone mentioned that Firmino is back as well. Keita is there. Chamberlain is there. Konate, Matip, Gomez, if all is well with him. So hopefully we do see some players come back into it. And at this point in time, do you think Robert plays Wednesday? Nailed on. I mean, do you think now it is pretty much a case of, look, we got some player issues at the moment for one reason or another. Let's play whatever in this EFL Cup. If we lose, who gives a shit? We got a Premier League to chase. Is that fair to say?
It becomes interesting, yeah. I mean, obviously, what's the priority? Premier League is the priority, but then not only that, you then have to throw in this idea of like, well, duty of care. Is playing in the EFL Cup the right thing? Do I want to keep risking more players, everything like that? The likelihood is the game's going to go ahead. And we've seen that, obviously, I guess a fringe set of players have been playing in the EFL Cup for the season so far. But with the lack of availability at the moment, I mean, what do you do? A few seasons ago when we were playing over in the World Club Cup, we played the under-18s or whatever it was against Aston Villa. Do we just do the same thing again and just say, well, we actually need to rest our players because we've got an important campaign that we need to keep going with? And as Thiago's father said, we need to stay on City's tail as close as we can and get to the new year. It's a nightmare of a situation. It is an absolute pain. I mean, we said it a few months ago, if we can attack all competitions and we can get something, well, great, happy days. But it's now at the point where it's like, well, you know what, the EFL Cup's the EFL Cup. Usually it's a Diddy team that wins it and they get themselves a nice fancy way into Europa League, unless you're obviously Manchester City for the last 6 out of the last 7 years. But the fact of the matter is, if we can keep going in it, great. If not, doesn't matter. Focus on the league, focus on the Champions League.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I agree. It's something that you look at it and go, unfortunately, three points behind City makes it feel like it's 10 because it's them. Because, again, they have the luxury of having a squad so deep that, a few COVID cases doesn't affect them. I mean, look at us. We've had 3, and that's the midfield that we have to put out. So it's something that if you have to choose to rest a few players and maybe go extra young for the AFL Cup, then who cares? We've got to make sure we stay as close as possible, City, for as long as possible.
Well, Rahul makes a good point here. Well, I maybe question it rather. It says we have 4 cases and the reserve squad playing on Wednesday. Do you think by the time Leeds comes around, 2 or 3 players on the COVID list would come off? What is their turnaround time for them to be in isolation? Is it 7 days, 10 days?
Who knows if they're vaccinated?
I know that.
I'm not going to get started.
I know if they're, but this is the thing: if they're asymptomatic and they're whatever, I get it. You don't want to spread it, but it's like saying I'm fit to play, but I can't play because of this, whatever reason. Like that's what frustrates me. Like the whole point of getting vaccinated is so you don't get as sick as you possibly can. If you're not as sick as you possibly can be, with it, go play, man. Fuck, someone else cops it. Fuck, if they're vaccinated, well.
I mean, look at
man.
Spurs. Spurs just had 2 games postponed in the league because of it, and the Europa League or the Europa Conference that they've just been booted out of. But they, so they've missed 2 league games. So the isolation period can't be that long because these games are coming thick and fast at the minute. And the UK did some strange things when they were flirting with like 7-day isolation, 10-day isolation. Was it 14-day isolation? But nothing's been communicated very clearly of what happens here, because I think Van Dijk first tested positive the morning of the Newcastle game, didn't he?
Is that how quick that was? Okay, I wasn't sure when that actually happened.
He put an Instagram post out saying, unfortunately I tested positive the morning of the game. I'll be back as quick as I can. So again, we still don't know.
Yeah, frustrating.
So, Boxing Day is going to be too soon, surely. Because when did we play Newcastle?
Who knows? Yeah,
Leicester still have.
Good point he says.
Well, Leicester obviously had their game against Tottenham cancelled, not just because Tottenham had issues, but Leicester had a load of cases as well. So, I mean, we're still waiting to see what the outcome of that is. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess.
I want to finish off on this question, gentlemen. I've had a very good discussion. Feels good, good to have a bit of a whinge and a bit of a rant over the officiating. It's not the first time we've had poor officiating, not just against ourselves, but against a lot of other teams as well in the Premier League over the last few years with VAR and just refereeing incompetence. And it's times like this. Sometimes I still wish that what's his name? Bloody hell, referee always used to favour United was still around.
Webb.
Thank you. Yeah, sometimes it makes me feel, and also Mark Clattenburg. So be thankful for what you got because you don't know what you got till it's gone. But one more question: we're playing Leeds in a few days' time. Thiago's father. Will Rafinha play his last game? For Leeds or potentially against us in January? You reckon for Rafinha? Are we going to sign a player in January?
Is he vaccinated?
I don't know.
Yeah, true.
Look, I can make so many jokes about Klopp being German and having a firm stance on conforming and being a certain way, otherwise you're out from society, but I'll refrain from that. However, I will say that whole thing is just, to me personally, it's just like, fuck, that's their business, man. Like, let them fucking do what they do. I could give 0 shits about someone's personal bit. Can they play football? Are they match fit? Are they good players? Are they going to contribute to this squad? Get on the pitch. That's all I've got to say about that.
We are not signing anyone in January. We all know what's going to happen in January.
Especially a player that can keep a team from getting relegated, right?
Yeah, they definitely, they want to keep him. They don't want to get rid of him. There's no chance of getting rid of him because they got some player injuries out as well. I think Calvin Phillips is out. FSG are doing everything but focusing on Liverpool. American owners, man, I don't know, what can you say? Gentlemen, any final words before we wrap things up?
Yeah, fuck Portini.
Yeah, there you go. That's the show. Gentlemen, yes, Jimmy.
What he said.
What he said.
What he said.
What that man said right there.
What that man said.
Yeah, right there.
That man. Yeah.
Pete, Jimmy, it's been a pleasure. Mr. Stephen Walding, thank you for joining us once again. Hopefully we can come together and match debates. Yes. After the Leeds match, and most of us will be on holidays because of Christmas break and New Year's and everything. So there could be some in-between shows. We'll see how that works out. But Leicester first in a couple of days' time, and then after that we've got Leeds on the weekend on Sunday or something. So it's a few days in between. So we'll leave it there. Thank you, Thank you, everyone, for joining us for the Red Sea Down Under for the match debate. Till next time, see yous.
Tell the world we are Liverpool.